chose.
All right, well, it is what it is. I do not appreciate getting insulted, but whatever. And today, we're joined by, as usual, we bring on someone who we think is an expert on the topic or the set being discussed this week. And this week we got the person I go to when it comes to anything Love Live related, because I know he is a huge Love Live fanboy. SBTC sponsored player Patrick Garrity, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Iuma. Thanks for having me here.
How's your evening been, man?
It's going pretty well. I'm here to talk some Love Live cards, so can't really be much better than this at the moment.
Awesome. Yo-chan sure not bad. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So before we begin with the show, I do, as usual, I must, because it's so important to, because they're super important. Shout out our gracious sponsors. So Nova TCG, for all your Japanese Weiss Schwarz card game needs. Shipping's hard. Shipping's rough. I bought something from Japan recently, and I had to pay way too much shipping for it. And it's kind of nice that I can get cards in North America with one fixed shipping rate, I guess, if you're in the US specifically. And so Nova TCG is really useful during times like these, and in general, because Nova TCG is an excellent card shop with excellent prices, excellent staff. Yeah, Nova TCG, shout outs to you. They will have Love Live Nijigasaki singles up later today. I was told by the owner actually DM'd me last night. He's like, yo, let him know when it's up. So I will let you guys know the moment it is up, provided I am tuned into my phone. Secondly, huge shout out to Weiss Tea Time, WeissTeaTime.wordpress.com, a blog that not only does translations for Japanese spoilers, but also has competitive articles and just, flavor of the week, flavor of the month articles from the owner of the blog, Taya. Fantastic, very caring, very responsible blog writer, and her website is just an excellent resource, especially for people like me who do not know how to read Japanese, who do not know how to listen to Japanese or speak Japanese. I'm able to get the translations for cards in a very timely manner as they are being spoiled in during the Japanese spoilers. So, I mean, I think everyone here on the cast actually uses. None of us can read Japanese, right? I think Patrick can a little bit, but correct me if I'm wrong.
I can recognize some kana.
All right, cringe. It's just a flex at this point. I can't. I use her website for everything. So yeah, shout out to our sponsors there, and Strictly Bro and TCG providing the resources for this all to happen. Before we get started with the show, I want to remind you guys, as usual, about our 5-point rating scale that we use for this show. For one star, card sucks, we can move on. The card is more useful as firewood or Kindle than as a Weiss Schwarz card. Not saying you should use them as Kindle, but we're in a zombie apocalypse. There's your choice there. 2-star review cards are cards that are niche, are cards that are very replaceable, are forgettable. They don't see play as more than one or two ofs. Just cards that are a little bit, less powerful or less playable than other ones. 3-star rating is our ambiguous rating, our context rating. A card gets a 3-star if it needs text to be good, which makes it a 4-star later on, or contextually it's bad, making it a 2 later on. So 3-star ratings are cards that, because it's in the middle, it can go either way. 4-star cards are cards that are just good. They're 4-star. We know they're good, and we're comfortable with that rating, and we give it a 4 because we're confident that you should probably pick those cards up early because they're probably gonna see play in the deck that you're building. And 5-star cards are cards that make everybody's day more exciting when you see them. It's a very hype for a card, but yeah, like a 5-star card, you see it, you build the set because the card exists. It is set defining. It is maybe even meta defining. It is and all those factors added up make a card a 5. It's a good card that is set meta deck defining. And that is our 5-star scale. I guess with that out of the way, let's move right into the show. Guys, are you ready?
Yes.
Let's go. Timed perfectly at the same time, almost like it was pre-recorded. All right, let's get straight into it. Starting off, we're gonna do TD highlights. These are cards picked by Patrick as highlights from the trial decks that you should maybe consider playing or picking up if you didn't buy trial decks. Let's get straight into it. First up, this 0/0 Kasumi. During your turn, it gets 3,000 power. And when this card is sent from stage to waiting room, you may pay 2 to salvage a music character from your waiting room.
Runs over whatever you want and then maybe gets you something from your bin afterwards. Yeah. Well, what do you give this, Pat?
So this card, I'm actually going to rate it a high 2. The thing I like about this card is it enables you to try field early on, but still be able to generate cards back the following turn to play. This is a card that highly reminded me of the Yo level 0 bomber from Sunshine. It enabled a tri-field play style early on, which gave you a way to play aggressively in the early game. So I can see it being played in a deck that uses yellow at level 1, but outside of that, not too much, which is why I'm starting it off at a 2.
Okay. That sounds good to me. Next card.
Next up, 0/0. Wait, did I skip an extra card? All right, the arts. No, I did not. Okay, 0/0 Shizuku. A 500 assist, and you may send this to waiting room to when your other music character is sent from stage to waiting room. If this card is in your back row, you may return that character to the stage rested in its form.
Hey, it's Kanan, but not Kanan, the character.
And not the card.
I can tell. I can guess why you put this in here, Pat. But you want to elaborate more?
Yeah. So this, I don't know if it's the reason you were thinking, but with the original spoilers that came out for the set, one of the big techs that they showed off was that the set it has a standby focused theme to it in red. So this card being in the trial deck, it's a power pump in the back row, and it's a way to save any of your front row cards if they do get beat. So it's a free encore at one point, similar to what Conan was, but this could be used more in a standby focused theme. So I'm going to give this card a 2 as well.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Next card.
Next up, 3/2 Kasumi. When this card is placed on stage from hand, choose up to one of your opponent's characters, return it to hand, and it gets plus 2,000 power for the turn, making it 11,500. And also, when it attacks, you may choose a music character and give it 1,500 power as well.
It's a nice bit of utility, I think. Not sure if there's much to say about it besides that, though.
No, there really isn't much to say. It's the only main phase bounce in the set. You can tech it in at level 3. There'll be more reasoning to running this card for the color in the later cards that we discuss. But I'm going to give this card a 2 as well. It's just a solid card to have as a 1 or a 2 of, depending on the meta.
I agree.
1/0 Iuma. When this card is placed on stage from hand, it gets 1,500 power, making it attack at 6,000 power, 7,000 when you play Climax. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, if you have the gate Climax pictured in the Climax area, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to one music character from among them, show it to your opponent, add it to hand, send the rest to waiting room, and choose one of your characters, and it gets +1 level, plus 1,500 power for the turn. I'm going to take off this mask. It's pissing me off.
Yeah. Wear your masks, everybody. This is what's commonly... We haven't seen one of these in a while, maybe, but this is what people refer to as a Minami profile, so it's on reverse. Look at the top 4. These combos are okay. This one is decently sized, which is nice. You think this is worth playing in an actual deck?
At the moment, I'm not too sure. I haven't been able to test any of the cards, but it is a combo with a door, which could be important as well. The trigger is very good. There's another card in the actual booster set that supports this card, so this card can actually hit levels of 9k at points. So this combo can contest level 1 standby boards, The on reverse is obviously a slight downside to it, but it's a solid card all around. I'm actually going to give this a 3 just because of its how solid it is, but it can dip down to a 2 depending on what level 1 is preferred from the set as people start to solve it.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Imagine getting your level 1 card anti-changed because of this effect.
I don't think that's gonna happen though. Next card.
3/2 Setsuna from the trial deck. During your turn, if you have 4 or more other music characters, this card gets 5,000 power and gains the following ability. During this card's battle, your opponent cannot play events or backups from hand. This card is placed on stage from hand. Reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is a music character, you may deal 1 damage to your opponent.
This is basically a clone of the Kasumi from Bang Dream TD. I think the first no events backups text has been getting very popular as of late, for a good reason. What do you think about this card, Patrick?
So the no events or backups is strong. It's much stronger if it's an early play, as we see in other sets, but this card isn't, which loses it a little bit of value. However, this card does have synergy with the booster set because it is a very event-heavy set. So if there are any events that have on reverse effects or have damage-based events or damage-based effects, this card has natural synergy with that. So it is a card to keep an eye out on. How much it'll show up in deck lists is to be determined. So I'm going to start it off as a 2, but depending on the presence of the synergy, it could increase.
All right. Keep an eye out for this card, guys. I think that's it for the TD cards.
Yeah.
For you guys today.
As Tom said, yeah, we're moving straight into yellow. No breaks. Guys, if you guys need to use the little astronaut's room, please wait for after yellow. Let's just get into it. Starting off, R00 Shizuku. When this card is placed on stage from hand, reveal the top card of your deck. That card is a music character. This turn, this card gets 2,000 power. And then you may discard 1. When this card is sent from stage to waiting room, you may pay the cost. If you do, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 level 1 or higher card from among them. Show it to your opponent, add to hand, and send the rest to waiting room.
Right. This is what's known as a Cheery. It's decent costless mill, and it's also a decent costless discard outlet. What do you think, Patrick?
For this card, I'm going to start it off as a 3, mainly because of the first ability. It also allows you to possibly win board at level 0, so you're not necessarily having to give your opponent a plus the turn you play this from hand. But as you said, costless discard outlet, gives you some early mill. It's a solid all-around card.
All right. Would like to note, though, this does not proc the power when it reveals the event, which is kind of sad, but it is what it is.
Would you guys rate it?
A 3.
Sorry, boys. Got some DMs. Had to respond to it. 3 it is.
Yeah. Next card.
Next up, 00 Kasumi. Pay 1, put 1 music character from your waiting room on the bottom of your clock. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 level 1 or lower character, show it to your opponent, and add it to hand. Shuffle your deck afterwards.
This is straight up search wiki on play. Always sweet. And the cost is like a little bit better than what it usually is, I think.
Yep. Nothing really special about this. Just gives you a little bit of flexibility on color manipulation in your clock, but that's not too big of a deal. So I'm just going to start this off at a 2.
Fair enough.
Next up, 10 Shioriko. When your climax is placed on the climax area until the end of your opponent's next turn, this card gets X power. X equals the number of your music characters times 500. The full board, it's 6,500 power. Climax combo at the start of your encore step. If you have the choice, climax pictured In the climax area, this card is in the front row. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. They fixed that data live thing. You have 2 or more other music characters, and the slot across from this has either no character or a reverse character. Choose one character from your waiting room, and you may add it to hand.
This gets pretty big, and it stays big, which is pretty nice for an on-reverse level 1 combo. Any level 1 combo, let alone on-reverse combo. Do you like this one better than the TD combo, or?
This and the TD combo have their own strengths and weaknesses. I don't think you can really compare the two, mainly because the TD combo does have mill, whereas this has cross-turn power. So they're both strong in their own way. The big thing to note is, as was mentioned, this does combo with the choice climax, which gives you a little more possibilities than the door that the trial deck combo works with. But it doesn't give you much deck speed. It just gives you a little extra board presence. So I'm actually going to start this off at a 2, but it could go up to a 3 depending on if this is the ideal level 1 play in the set.
Okay.
I'm going to start it off to 2.
Next up, 3/2 Rena. This ability activates up to once per turn. During the turn, this card is placed on stage from hand. When this card's damage is cancelled, mill 1, then deal X damage to your opponent. X equals the level of the mill card plus 1. A lot of words for the simple effect of being a Musashi. That's what we call this effect. Basically like a burner type thing. Climax combo, recollection, pay 1, discard 2 cards. This ability activates up to once per turn at the end of this card's attack. If the choice climax pictured is in the climax area, you have 2 or more 0/0 Rena. We haven't reviewed this yet. Effect is on the screen, but we'll get to it later. Is in your memory. You may pay the cost if you do stand this.
A Musashi that is also a finisher if you happen to buy into the memory synergy pictured below. This is I think this is a pretty playable card. Solid. Restand is pretty cheap, which is nice.
Yeah.
What do you make of this?
This is definitely a reasonable yellow top end card. If you're looking to play a choice climax, but you're playing a different climax at level 1 or level 2, this is definitely a valid option to use. The Musashi alone makes it a valid splash card at level 3. If you're running the choice, then there's really no reason why not to run more of this card for the restand, unless you're not playing the memory synergy with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna give this card a 2. It's a solid top end.
Okie dokie. Next card, please.
Next up, 0/0 Kasumi. Now, boys, listen carefully. Recollection: if you have a copy of this card in your memory, this card's name is treated as the same as the names of all your characters on your stage with Kasumi in its name. We need to do a double take on this. Hopefully you guys got it the first time. So there's actually a bit of helpful reminder text here. Essentially, this card gets to share the name of any Kasumi card you control for resonance purposes. Thank you so much, Waste Time, for clarifying that. It's a bit of a complicated effect. When this card is reversed, if you have 2 or less memory, you may send this to memory. Third ability, you may discard 1 and send this to waiting room to choose 1 music character from your waiting room and add it to the hand.
We haven't really seen this kind of card before, I think. Pretty unique effect. I'm honestly kind of not question marks in my head, so I'm gonna let Patrick handle this card.
Yeah. So this card, I think, wholly depends on the rest of the resonance package in the set. The second ability is free memory compression. Third ability gives you a free discard outlet. So I think it's a solid card just for those 2 abilities. The recollection ability might not be that strong with this set, but it's definitely something to keep an eye out for if this gets future sets. This card could definitely have a huge impact later on, but right now I'm actually going to start it off as a 3 as a card to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, I think that's totally reasonable because totally very unique effect. We've literally never seen this before, I think. So
Dude, I don't
think
want
the
to
3
be
is
a
very-
party pooper, but don't you feel like they port the faces of these girls sometimes and just change the hairstyle? Doesn't that look like
Oh, yeah.
Nico with different hair?
Yep. That's welcome to the Love Live universe, except for what will be Superstars.
All right, it's lit. Sorry, I'm off topic. 0 Shizuku. If you have 2 or more other music characters, it gets 2,000 power. Discard 1 music character. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose 1 character with change from your waiting room and add it to your hand.
You'd only run this card if you have cards with change text, right? Apart from that, it's just a pretty standard utility card, I think.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this kind of card, mainly because the rest of the change package, which we'll see later on, isn't that impactful. So I'm actually going to give this card a 1. There's not much more to really say about it.
Yep.
Sag. Next up, 0 Shioriko. When this card is placed on stage from hand, choose 1 of your characters and it gets the following ability that it cannot be reversed by your opponent's auto effects. And it's a brainstorm, tap self, search brainstorm for music characters. No 4.
As it's a brainstorm, it's basically immediately just playable, regardless of what the first effect does. But the first effect could be, situationally niche. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not much more to say about it. Honestly, solid 2.
All right, in exactly about 30 seconds, my alarm is going to... Hopefully I can time
Okay.
it so it doesn't disrupt the stream like every single time. Next up, 0 Shioriko. If this card is in the front row center slot, it gets 2,000 power. Woo! I'm pretty good at this. Discard 1 Climax. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you may pay the cost if you do salvage character. Dish Climax salvage.
This is not bad. This is again a pretty standard profile, but it's sometimes 3K, which is kind of understated when it comes to like putting it on these utility cards, I think.
Yeah, definitely makes them more playable, especially in the early game when you don't need the second ability at the moment. But I'm going to give this a solid 2 just for those reasons.
Mhm. Don't disagree. Next card.
0 Arena. When this card is placed on stage from hand, if you have 2 or less memory, choose 1 copy of this card from your waiting room and send it to memory. Pay 2, send this standing card to memory. If you have 2 or more other music characters, look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 card from among them, add to hand, and send the rest to waiting room.
This is the arena that turns on the restander, I think, for the Musashi, assuming you're in the Climax Combo. I feel like you probably don't run this card if you're not running the Musashi, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's a package overall. It doesn't have that much utility to it. The cost to check top 3 is more expensive than it usually is. It's a nice 2-stock outlet early on, but I feel like there are better options for it. So I'm actually going to start this off at a 1.
Unfortunate.
Okay.
Next card.
0 Arena. When this card is placed on stage from hand, look at the top card of your deck and put it on top or bottom of your deck. And it is a pay 1, dish 1 search for a music character.
Why do they do this? This card looks very similar to the last card. How are you... Anyways.
It's Rina Chamborda.
Anyways.
She has many faces.
This is a pretty standard drop searcher, I think. You want to just rate it and move on, Patrick?
Yeah, it's a solid 2.
Yeah.
The clone of a card from Sao, and I know all cards from Sao. Never mind. 2-1 Kasumi. When this card attacks, if the level of the character across from this is level 3 or higher, it gets 6,000 power, making it attack at 13,000 power. Then it has a Climax Combo with the wind pictured. You may pay 1 to send this to waiting room as the cost. At the start of your Encore phase, if you have that wind climax in your climax area, this card is in the front row, and you have 2 or more other music characters, so those are the conditions. You may pay the cost. If you do, choose 1 music character in your waiting room, return it to hand. Then choose 1 level 3 or lower character in your hand and place it on stage in this card's former slot.
Continuing the trend of attaching these combos to anti-change bombs and level 3 Slayers. What do you think about this combo? I think the first effect is pretty self-explanatory, but the combo is kind of interesting.
Yeah, the combo is unique. I don't think we've had many, if any, combos like this at level 2. It does allow you to pull off some really interesting shenanigans, to say the least, but I don't see it having much of an effect, also because the climax itself is a win trigger. If it was a more impactful trigger, like a choice, it might have a little more viability. I'm actually going to rate this card a 2 to start off with, because it is a good level 2 Slayer that could have some upside to it.
All right.
Can't
Sounds
wait
good.
for this card to be the best card in the set.
Be the 5 of the
Yeah, be
okay,
the 5
dude.
of the set, man.
All right, bro. Next card.
Next up, 3/2 Shizuku. If you have 2 or less climaxes in your waiting room, this card gets -1 level in hand. If you have 2 or more other music characters, this card gets 2,000 power, making it attack at 11,000 cross turn. And when this card is placed on stage from hand, if you have 2 or more other music characters until the end of your opponent's next turn, this card gains the following ability: that the character across from this gets -2 soul. Wow.
First off, it's 11k early play with an easy condition. Nice, but I think the real meat of this card is in the last effect. Right, Patrick?
Yep. This is the first time we're seeing an early play with a -2 soul ability not attached to a climax combo. It gets it on play from hand, so you can't stand this buy and get the -2 soul. But this card competes with the slot index for early play healers. So there's an argument to which one is more impactful. And honestly, this is all going to be based off of deck building and testing with the set. I can't say which one initially has the better impact. So I'm going to start this off at a 3. It could definitely be very strong, but we'll have to find out how strong it is.
So many unique effects in these idle sets, don't you think? It's kind of interesting the way they go about things.
Yeah, it's their guinea pig, their experimentation for this.
Yeah.
No comment. Bushiroad, smart company, great company. They like
Yeah.
they know
I
their
mean,
stuff.
you
Yeah.
gotta do stuff like this.
Yeah.
Every company does stuff like this, I think. So
I love them so much. Great people. 0/0 Shizuku. 500 power assist. Climax combo. When the shot climax is placed on your climax area, if you have 2 or more other music characters, choose one level 0 or lower music character from your waiting room, and you may place it on stage in any slot. Pay 2, rest this card, search your deck for up to 1 music character, show it to your opponent, and add the hand shuffle your deck afterwards. I don't know if I mentioned it climax combos with that shot pictured below.
Yeah. Personally, I don't think there's much to say about this card.
Yeah.
The best part about it is the pay 2 rest search.
Yeah.
But even then, they're better back row slots. I'm gonna give this a 1.
Yeah. Next card.
0/0 Kasumi. When this card is placed on stage from when this card is sent from stage to waiting room, look up to 4 cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 yellow climax from among them. Show it to your hand. Show it to your opponent. Add it to hand and send the rest to waiting room. If you added a card, discard 1. Resonance. Reveal another copy of this card in your hand. And at the start of your climax phase, you may pay the cost. If you do this turn, it gets 2,000 power and a soul.
This is our first Resonance ability card. It also happens to be pretty good utility card. Apart from that, I think. So even if you don't need the Resonance, you could still definitely play this in any, obviously yellow deck. But what do you make of this card, Patrick?
So the Resonance ability, it makes it a costless 2 soul beater, which is very strong, especially in the early game when your opponent is at their least compressed deck state. The first ability, though, is probably the reason why you're playing this card. It makes any yellow climax lineup that you're playing more consistent, gives you more ways to grab the climax. Honestly, I'm going to give this a 3 to start off with. I don't know how much it's going to be played based on how much yellow is played in the decks, but it can definitely up the consistency of a deck.
Okay.
Next up, 0-0 Arena. All of your other music characters get plus 500 power. Pay 1, put the top card of your deck into clock, and rest this to search your deck for up to 1 character with memory as a keyword. Show it to your opponent and add it to hand. Shuffle your deck after.
It's a limited Takitsubo, and it doesn't do that much apart from that, unfortunately. So, kind of, yeah.
I'm going to start this card off at a 2 just because of the Arena level 3, which is a solid top
That's
end,
fair.
but it's not as strong of a card as it could because of the restriction on the Takitsubo effect.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. Next card.
1-0 Arena. Recollection during your turn. If you have a 0-0 Arena, again, 009 that we've already gone through is in your memory. This card gets plus 1 level and plus 1500 power. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, you may send this card to memory, and if you do, at the start of your next draw phase, choose a copy of this card from your memory and place it on stage in any slot.
Kind of a blast from the past, pardon the pun. It's a time machine, but it's honestly not that big. Not as big as we want it to be, I think, even with the condition.
Yeah, it requires you to play the 0-0 Arena Recollection package. And as you said, the power isn't that large. I'm honestly just going to give it a 1.
Yeah. Feels bad, though. Next card.
1-1 Shizuku. When this card is reversed, if the battle opponent's level is higher than your opponent's level, you may send that character to stock. If you do, send the bottom card of your opponent's stock to waiting room. Change ability, send this to waiting room at the start of your encore step. If this is in the front row, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose up to 1 music character in your waiting room, put it into stock, then choose 1-1-0 Shizuku from your waiting room and place it on stage. In this card's former slot, the 1-0 is pictured below. You can read the effect. We'll review it later.
It's an interchange bomb. It'll probably be played. It would only be played probably for that alone. But we have a very spicy second effect, and we're all excited about this. Pat, take it away.
So this card, I think, off the bat, a lot of people were talking about it. This card, in my opinion, is the most broken card in the set. I'm going to start off by saying this card is 5 stars, hands down. The second ability, you can activate it whether it's rested or reversed. You can just send it to waiting room and get a free clean stock from waiting room. The card pays for itself if you're playing it from hand. So this is essentially a 1-0 Adachi, as people would call it. And there are some very funny shenanigans that you can do with this. If you're playing this in a standby deck, you can actually loop this kind of card while triggering standby and just build free stock. So this card has a lot of potential. I think this card alone pushes people to play yellow in every deck just because of what it can do.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself, honestly. Super potentially game warping effects here, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more when we get to the card it changes into, because it does add a lot, I think. But 5 is totally reasonable.
The first 5 is an uncommon. Feels good, guys. It means the set's gonna be cheap. Next up, 2-1 Shioriko. Pay 2, send 1 of your characters from stage to waiting room. When you use this card's backup, you may pay the cost if you do. Choose 1 of your opponent's characters whose level is higher than their current level, and you may send it to waiting room. Anti-change counter, 2500, very standard.
You want to rate it, Pat?
2 stars. Solid. Sack counter. Nothing else to say.
Alrighty.
Next up,
card.
3-2 Shioriko. When this card is placed on stage from hand, if you have 4 or more other music characters, you may put the top card of your deck into stock. It is a healer on play. And when this card attacks, if you have 2 or more other music characters, choose 1 of your characters, and during this turn, it gets 2000 power.
Solid healer, I think, yeah.
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 Very, very solid. Nothing really to say much about it. It's a power pump to whatever lane you want. It's a 1-cost healer is also the big thing. So that gives you more possible plays at level 3. I'm going to give it a solid 2.
Sounds good. Next card.
Next up is 3-2 Kasumi. When this card is placed on stage from hand, draw up to 2 cards, discard 2 cards, then put up to 1 card from the top of your deck into stock. Optional. Cool. When this card attacks this turn, this card gets plus X power. X equals the number of your other music characters times 500, so it can attack at 12,000 power. And then Resonance, discard 1 card, reveal 1 of the Resonance package card. It's not pictured, unfortunately, but... a copy of this card, so itself.
Yeah,
or you can discard it. Sorry, I tripped. So you can discard this card, or the Resonance package card that counts its name as all Resonance cards in your deck. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, you may pay the cost if you do. Heal 1. Sorry, guys. I fumbled on that for a sec.
It's kind of an oldish profile that we see every once in a while. It's another Resonance card, so keep that in mind, guys. Unfortunately, I feel like you probably would not play this card if you don't run the Resonance stuff. And even then, it's kind of a little lackluster, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, this card doesn't get much power on defense, which is probably the best time where you can abuse a card like this to heal on your opponent's turn. So I'm honestly going to start this card off at a 1. I don't think it's really worth playing. Yeah.
Unfortunate. Next card.
0-0 Shioriko. Discard 1 card. When your other 2-2 vanilla Ayumi attacks pictured, we don't review vanilla, so there's the picture of the 2-2 vanilla. If this card is in the front row, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose up to 1 standby climax from your waiting room and shuffle it into your deck.
This is pretty spicy, but unfortunately it also requires you to play this 2-2 vanilla. Yeah,
there's not much to say about this. It's a 1-star. The biggest downside to this is this actually has to be in your front row, which means if you're playing the 2-2 vanilla in a standby deck, which there's a better 2-2 target, this is in your front row as an attacker at level 2 or honestly even level 1, you don't really want it there.
Yeah. Quite unfortunate.
Next up, 0-0 Rena. When this card is placed on stage from hand, mill 2, and this turn, this card gets X power. X equals the number of your music characters milled times 1,000, milling 2 music characters, makes this a 4,000 power attacker. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, clean cut. Just kidding. It's choose one of your music characters. This turn, it gets 2,000 power.
This guy's teasing. Is not a clean cut, unfortunately. I don't really think this card is very good, unfortunately.
No, it's a 1-star for me. I think they're better level 0 yellows that you can run.
Yep.
Next up, 1-0 Shizuku. When this card is front attacked, look at the top card of your deck and put it on top of your deck or into your waiting room. It has hand encore and has an act ability to pay 1, send this to waiting room to resummon the 1-1 Shizuku that Patrick so graciously gave a 5. Place it on stage in this card's former slot. So this is the change that the 1-1 changed into.
Yep.
And then it can go back out into her again.
We don't see the first effect on level 1s that often. Quite interesting, actually. But this is package and parcel with the 1-1 we talked about, and so Patrick, loves that card. You want to give some insight on this card as well?
Yeah, so the first thing to note, and I don't mean to say anything, Yue, but this doesn't have the change keyword in it. So I know there was a card previously that interacted with the change keyword. So this is just a card that changes into the 1-1 from the act ability. So that's a big difference. But if you're running the 1-1 picture below, there really is no reason not to run this card. It lets you loop the 1-1 as well, even if you're not playing standby. It gives you defensive scries. If you're losing that lane, you can just encore this and then pull out the 1/1 again to get you free stock. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do with this card. In a vacuum, this card alone is a 1, but played as a package, I'm actually going to rate it as a 3.
The only consideration being, is this worth deck slots? And we'll have to find out, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
Next card.
Next up, 1-0 Shioriko. For each of your other music characters, it gets plus 500 power. So 5,500 power card with full board. Shuffle 2 characters from your waiting room into your deck. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you may pay that cost if you do during this turn. This card does not suffer soul penalty when side attacking. And it has hand encore.
Not a great collection of effects here, I think, right, Patrick?
Nah, nothing really strong about this card. They're better level 1s to run in the set. It's a 1 for me.
Yeah. Next card.
1-0 Kasumi. Pay 1, discard 2 cards. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, draw a card and search your deck for up to 1 music character, show it to your opponent, and add it to hand. Shuffle your deck up afterwards. Resonance, reveal a copy of this card, or again, the name copying card. At the start of your climax phase, you may pay the cost. If you do this turn, this card gets 2,000 power.
Another resonance card. First effect is pretty neat, though. Double drop search, always cool. What do you think, Patrick?
I'm going to start this card off at a low 2. The resonance is not too impactful for what this card does. As Tom had pointed out, this card does give you a double discard outlet. The first card you get back isn't selective at all. It's a single draw, but it is a drop search nonetheless. So it's a good card to tack in, which is why I'm giving it a low 2.
Sure. By the way, thank you, Buck Llama 7-1 for the raid. Appreciate it. We usually don't shout out stuff like that during the stream, but I do appreciate it, man. If you're in the chat, thank you. Appreciate it. If you want to check out Buck Llama 7-1. Next up, 1-0 Arena. When this card is placed on stage from hand this turn, this card gets plus X power. X equals the number of your music characters times 500. We have a full board. When this card is placed, it will be 7,000 power. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, if you have another music character, you may draw 1 and discard 1.
The payoff for this having power and reversing stuff is not that high, unfortunately. I don't see a reason you'd play this.
No, it's a 1.
Yeah. Next card.
1-1 Kasumi. It's a counter. When you use this card's backup, look at the top card of your deck and put it on top or on the bottom of your deck. And it's a 1,500 power counter. So.
I think we just ready to move on, probably.
Yeah, it's a solid 2. It's a 1/1 backup, scry backup. Also has a soul trigger for any choice decks you're running. So.
Yep.
Next up, 1-1 Kasumi. It is a level assist times 500 power to music characters in front of this card for their level. Resonate per level. Sorry, I should say. Resonate. Pay 1. Rest this card and reveal a copy of itself. Or again, 0-0 Kasumi. Look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 music character from among them. Show it to your opponent. Add it to hand and put the rest into waiting room.
Yeah, so another resonate card. This level assist, which is fine, but the real thing to discuss here is the second effect, right, Patrick?
Yeah. So in my opinion, this is the best resonate card out of all of the ones we've seen so far. I think this card comes more into play in a standby base deck. You can pull this out early. It's a nice early level assist, but the resonate check top 3, add 1 gives you a way to consistently gain cards to hand, similar to like the Kaguya deck that people might be running nowadays. It's a nice engine, and it gives you some deck mill as well. So I'm actually going to start it off as a 2. It could go a little higher depending on how impactful the deck itself that it's running is.
Right, sounds good. Next card.
2-1 Shioriko. It's a continuous 1,000 power assist. And Climax Combo. Pay 1 when the standby climax is placed on your climax area. You may pay the cost. If you do, choose up to one music character in your waiting room added to hand. And then this turn, all of the 3-2 Iumi pictured below that we'll review when we get to red, they get a plus 1,000 power and the following ability of pay 1 when this card attacks. You may pay the cost to perform trigger check twice or twin drive.
It's a 1K sister nice in standby decks, but I feel like the only reason you play this is if you're playing the 3-2 Ayumi, right, Patrick?
Yes. However, the thing to note is the climax combo that this works by is actually a different climax than the level 3 works with. And then there's, which we'll see later on, there's another standby climax for the level 1 combo. So now...
No, it works with the same climax, I think.
Is it the same climax? I thought it was...
It is
okay.
the same. Yeah.
Okay, my mistake on that. But still, it's a different climax than the level 3.
Yes.
So that itself gets you a little less value with the level 3 that it has synergy with, or supposedly has synergy with.
No, it is
So,
the same climax. I think that's what I'm saying. They're the same climax, but it's okay. Like, unless am I saying something out of place?
No, he's talking about the 3-2, right? The Shizuku. It wouldn't like
Yes.
if you're playing this climax combo, kind of hard to run the other one, which is the
Yeah,
issue
exactly. You
at
have to
hand.
pick and choose what your standby lineup is at that point.
I'll
Yeah.
stay in my own lane, guys. I apologize. I'm gonna get spanked later. I'm sorry.
No, it's nice for the clarification, so I do appreciate that, Yue. But this does compete for deck slots at that point, so I'm going to give it a 1. I don't think this combo is worth playing.
Yeah.
You guys laughing at me because I thought I was gonna get spanked. What a cringe lord.
I think everybody's laughing.
2-1 Shizuku during your opponent's turn. For each of your other music characters, it gets plus 1,500 power. Send this to waiting room. Choose one music character from your waiting room and add it. Send this to waiting room. Choose one music character from your waiting room and add it to hand. Sorry. And you may send this to waiting room to choose 2-1 Shizuku from your waiting room and place it on stage in this card's former slot. And the 2-1 Shizuku is pictured below. You can read the effect now. We'll get to it right after this card.
Right. So this is like part of the pair with the other 2-1 Shizuku. This is the one that lives during your opponent's turn. It's how big? 11K? 11.5? Yeah, 11.5, which is decently big, but it also forces you basically to run this other 2-1, unfortunately, which, yeah, I don't know.
I don't think it's really worth running.
Yeah.
Too many deck slots if you're running both of these cards. I think it's a 1.
Yeah. Next card.
So the one you move into and changes out to the previous card. During your turn, for each of your other music characters, it gets plus 1,000 power, capping at 10,000 power if you have a full board. When this card's battle opponent is reversed and you have another music character, you may draw one and then discard one. And then at the start of your encore step, if this card is in the front row, you may change into the previous card in the same slot that this card was in.
If this did more, it would be neat, but unfortunately it does not. It doesn't really do anything, unfortunately.
No, it's a 1 for me.
Yeah, it's definitely a 1. Sad. Next card.
2-1 Rina. If your opponent has 5 or more climaxes in their waiting room, it gets -1 level in hand. And if you have 2 or more other music characters and 2 or more 0-0 Rina in your memory, this card gets 1,500 power and bodyguard. Woo woo. And yeah, it interacts with the 0-0 Rina as pictured earlier.
Wow. You can have a bodyguard at level 1, guys. Woo.
An 8K bodyguard. Oh man.
It doesn't even have 2 soul. Okay, this card is just
It's
bad.
1. Yeah,
Yeah.
1 and move on.
Yeah. Next card.
This 1-0 event, if you do not have another music character, this card cannot be played from hand. Gotta watch out for this condition. Very hard to manage deck. You may discard one music character If you do, choose a climax in your waiting room and add it to hand.
It's a. I think we see this card a lot. You know, it's just a typical climax salvager. I don't know if there's that much to say about it.
This card is interesting. It might not seem like it has great effect to start off with, but it could definitely be run in decks. It doesn't specify which kind of climax you can salvage. So if you're running yellow, you can tech this in as a way to grab whatever climax you need. Since this is a what we'll see as a set, an event focused set, I could understand this being run. I don't think it's necessarily worth it. So I'm actually going to give this a 2.
No, that's fair. I don't
Imagine,
disagree with that.
imagine minusing to try to get a plussing combo to plus. That's
Oh, well, you
Funny,
wouldn't use
funny.
it for a level 1 Climax Combo, bro. That'd be kind of. What you doing? Next card.
1-0 event. Look it up to 4 cards on the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 music character from among them. Show it to your opponent. Add the hand and put the rest into waiting room.
Another. This is more standard than the last card, but yeah, I mean, it is a Chihaya's camera event. It is 3 mil, which is nice, but we see this a lot.
Yeah. Sadly, there are no characters that have synergy with this event. None of them salvage it. None of them grab it in any other way. It's just a solid event that checks off 4, adds 1.
Mhm.
It's a 2.
Yep. Next card, final yellow card.
3-2 event. Your opponent chooses 2 climax from their waiting room and shuffles all other cards from their waiting room into their deck. Then choose one of your characters and it gets 5,000 power. I love you 5,000, Tom.
Does that mean this would be a free one if it didn't have that?
Ignore it.
Kind of interesting to think about. This is what's often known as a Fumio effect, but it's on an event. I don't know if we've seen this before. This is an event-focused set with some ways to grab events. We'll see that later, but what do you make of this card, Patrick?
So the most recent set that had this printed on an event was Rent a Girlfriend, but it was
Right.
a level 2 event, if I remember correctly. The Fumio effect is nothing to laugh at. It's impactful at any point at level 2, level 3 on. The 5,000 power is also something that can hard win a lane. So this card has a lot of potential. I think this card is run in decks that run yellow just for the Fumio effect alone. So I'm actually going to give this a 3.
Right on. Yeah, okay. That's it for yellow.
We'll be back after a brief intermission. Before we go into intermission, I'd like to shout out Riser Kun for the follow. Red. We got started. You guys ready?
Yeah,
Speaking
we can
of
start
tomatoes.
whenever you're ready.
Bro, is that Jesh? No, it's not Jesh.
Dude, this is Jesh. I don't know what. It's Jesh right now.
We are all Jesh. You guys ever watch Walking Dead, where everyone's like, "I am
my God,
Negan"?
dude.
Yeah, we're all Jesh.
I am Zero.
All right. Anyways, let's get started on red.
You remember that Code Geass scene, dude?
No. Anyways.
Oh.
0-0 Iumi. When your climax is placed on the climax area, look at up to 2 cards from the top of your deck and put them back on top of your deck in any order. It is also a tap salvage brainstorm for any character.
Tap self salvage brainstorm. The effect is pretty good. What do you think, Patrick?
So some people might disagree with me on this. I know some of my locals have. I'm actually going to start this card off at a high 2.
Ooh.
The brainstorm itself is solid. It's a salvage brainstorm, so I feel as if it's a little better than a search brainstorm in an overall sense. The first ability, however, is what we're really looking at. I think depending on your climax layout for a deck, this card can have more impact or less impact. Not saying that it doesn't have impact at all. It definitely does. It gives you knowledge, but for a standby-based deck versus a choice-based deck or a pants-based deck, I think there are certain layouts that benefit more from this kind of ability. So depending on what comes out as the more popular or strongest deck from this set, this could definitely go up to a 3 or even a 4. But I'm going to start it off at a high 2 right now.
Fair enough.
3-2-I or AI? I don't know. What is she? If
It's
you have
AI.
4 or more other
Bruh.
music characters, this gets -1 level in hand. During your turn, if all your other characters are music, it gets plus 2,000 power, making it an 11,000 power attacker. And then discard 1 card. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, put the top card of your clock into stock.
This is a pretty standard card now, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I feel like we can just rate and move on. But unless you had something you wanted to say about this card in particular, all right.
Nothing really particular. Solid 2.
Yeah.
3-2 Setsuna. I was told this is best girl. Is this the one?
This is the one that I guess the majority of the fan base enjoy, based off of the amount that her merchandise sells for.
It's lit. If all your characters are music, this card gets 2,000 power, making it an 11,000 power card. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you may heal 1 Climax Combo, pay to discard 1 at the start of your encore step if you have the standby Climax in the Climax area, and you have 6 or less hand. Hard outplay potential, boys. You may pay the cost if you do deal 2 damage to your opponent.
Right. It's 11k healer. That is nice, but obviously the fact that we're all interested in at present moment is the last one. If you want to, elaborate on what you think about this ability, Patrick.
So this ability, the combo, is interesting. As I mentioned earlier, there are 3 standby climaxes in this set. This does not combo with the level 1. This does not combo with the level 2 or level 3 that we had seen before. So this is its own package. This is its own card. As for the ability itself, the restriction for 6 or less hand isn't too hard for a standby deck. You don't really sit at 7 hand the entire game. You can even, if you really need to, somehow discard a card to go down to 6 for this combo. Pay 2, pitch 1, deal 2 is a nice number at level 3. So I don't see much of a problem with this. It's a healer for a standby base deck. It sits on its own at 11k plus anything else that pumps it. So I'm actually going to start this off at a 2. I think it's the better option at level 3 if you're running an 8 standby deck. If you're running a standby top end deck, I still think this is the better option to play.
All right.
The big thing that I didn't mention with this, that is on the fine print that you guys probably don't see. It's on Weiss Tea Time if you'd like to go there. But this card doesn't activate solely from the front row. So the combo can actually activate from the back row. So there's a bunch of shenanigans you can actually pull off with this kind of a card. But depending on how impactful the 8 standby deck is or the standby top end is, will determine the strength of this card alone.
All right.
Ooh, I think I don't see finishers at 2s very often, but that's just, I respect the rating. Very, very. I actually don't even know what to say, man. I rarely see these kind of finishes as 2. I'm kind of surprised. I'm not gonna lie. Patrick, you wanna whatever. I'm out of my own lane. 0-0 Setsuna. When this card is placed on stage from hand, look at the top card of your deck and put it on top of your deck or into your waiting room. When your climax is placed on the climax area, you may pay cost. If you do choose one of your characters during this turn, it gets +1 soul.
Compared to the last card, this is considerably more standard, and yeah, I don't know. You want to say a little bit about it and then give it a rating, Patrick?
So this card is your typical bounce to hand, works with multiple climax layouts. Honestly, any climax layout. I'd rather this card be a power pump than a soul pump, just because it has innate synergy with standby climaxes. It's in red, so I'm sort of deferring to the climaxes in that color. But don't let this say that you can't play this in a yellow or a blue base deck as well. I'm going to give it a solid 2. I don't think it goes much higher than that.
Alrighty. Next card.
1-0 AI. Is it I or AI?
It's
I.
All right. 1-0 I, who has a soul trigger. Is that the name of the card, or it just has a soul trigger?
No, we're just noting that as a soul trigger.
Oh,
'cause
well,
it's a 1-0.
guess what? It has a soul trigger. 500 power assist. When your trigger check reveals a soul trigger, choose one of your music characters, and it gets 2,000 power. And you may rest this to give a card 500 power.
So it's probably a standby card, honestly. Given it's red and it synergizes soul triggers, clear key in to standby, I think. Do you think this second effect is going to be impactful enough for this to be seen in many standby lists, Patrick?
I don't know if it'll be a common play. I can see it being like a one of in a standby deck because it competes for back row slots that you usually want for larger power pumps. I've seen some deck lists that have come out within the last 12 hours or so run a couple copies of this card. So I don't think it's necessarily weak, which is why I'm going to start it off at a 2. But I don't think it's going to be as popular as this card could be.
Alrighty.
So 1-0 Setsuna. Accelerate, put the top card of your deck into clock. When you use this card's backup, you may pay the cost. If you do, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 1 music character from among them, show it to your opponent, add it to hand, send the rest to waiting room, then choose one of your battling characters, and it gets 1,000 power, and it's a 1,000 power backup as well. Wow.
Yes. Accelerate backup. That's interesting. What do you want to say about this card, Patrick?
So this card on its own is a 1,000 power backup. You have to accelerate in order to get the extra 1,000, and you can't split it. It goes to a battling character. So the check top 4 is an ability that can be useful depending on deck state, depending on how many cards are in your clock. But it could also be an ability that you don't necessarily want to use, thus decreasing the value of this card. Some people might not agree with me on this, but I'm actually going to rate this card at a 1, mainly because the set, as you'll see later on, does have a 1/0/2K backup with no shenanigans attached.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair. The 1K, man, the 1K power is a legitimate restriction, I think, unfortunately.
Yeah, especially a level 1.
Yeah. Next card.
1-0 Iuma. Climax Combo. When this card attacks, if you have the standby climax in the climax area and you have 2 or more other music characters, reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. Your opponent chooses 1 character or event from among them. You add it to hand and send the rest waiting room.
It's an on-attack standby plussing combo. Interesting. I feel like this kind of combo, though, isn't as selective as we would prefer, right, Patrick? I think it's...
Yeah, it's not as selective, but it does have synergy with events for the set. So the only way you whiff on this is if you reveal 2 climaxes. Everything else, you get a card. You don't really see level 1 standby combos with hand advantage attached to them. It's more board presence. So this card can be good, but I don't know. I don't really think that it's as good as it could be. So I'm going to start it off at a 2.
Fair enough.
2/2 I for each of your other music characters. It gets plus 1,000 power, making it a 9,500 power 2/2. It has twin drive, so pay 1 when this card attacks. You may pay that cost to perform trigger check twice, and it has hand encore.
The 2/2 of choice, probably, for standby, you think, Patrick? Yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
Unfortunately, very small.
Yeah. It's smaller than your typical 10K hand encore because this also has the twin drive effect. Personally, I'd rather this card not have the Encore be 1,000 power larger, sit at 10-5, and have the twin drive effect. But unfortunately, this is how this was printed. It doesn't hold board as well in a standby deck, so I'm actually going to give this a low 2.
Yeah. Next card.
3/2 Ayumi. Experience 4 if the sum of levels of cards in your level zone is 4 or more. And this is in the front row. All of your music characters get plus 1500 power. A Climax Combo, pay 1, discard 2. When this card is placed on stage via the effect of specifically this standby, if I'm not mistaken, correct? You may pay the cost if you do stand this.
We talked about this briefly. The first effect is nice for standby decks. It's like a nice effect, but unfortunately, we talked about the combo, how it introduces some deck building, problems for the player. Do you think this standby? I feel like this standby Climax Combo is not as good as this Setsuna.
No,
Right, Patrick?
it's not.
Yeah.
Which is a little disappointing. I think this is the standby you actually pass on in the set. I wouldn't be surprised if the card itself is run though, just because of the first ability. Hitting experience 4 isn't hard at all, especially by level 2, and it's actually a global 1500. So I could understand if someone played 1 or 2 of it in the deck just to make their board larger, since there's no level 3 back rows.
Right.
So I'm going to start this off at a 2 just for that, but I don't think it goes much higher.
Sounds good to me. Next card.
No, it's Honoka.
Senor.
0/0 Ayumi.
What?
All of your other 1/0 Ayumi.
Why do you keep saying Ayumi?
Oh, Amumu. It's like the League of Legends character.
Nice.
0/0 Amumu. So, sorry, Ayumi's
Yeah.
from Charlotte. I apologize. 0/0 Ayumu. All of your other 1/0 Ayumu CXCs get plus 1000 power. All of your other music characters get 500 power. Rest this if you have another character with experience. Choose 1 card from your level zone and 1 card from your waiting room and swap them. The Ayumi it specifically references is from the trial deck. It's pictured below. Patrick originally gave it a 3. Chat was also discussing it. Yeah, Patrick did indeed give it a 3. So.
Hey, you want to talk about this card? in
Yeah,
detail,
so
Patrick? Yeah.
so this card itself, I think it's only played if you're running the level 1 combo. It comes as a package. I don't think you run more than 2 of it, but this is the enabler for the level 1 combo. This is what lets it hit 9k, if I did the math correctly. So the on reverse isn't a big deal unless you're playing against a deck like an Obero combo, or maybe even AOT, which can move positions, things like that. But it allows you to play that level 1 combo and have the door trigger. So I'm actually going to rate this card alone as a 1, but if you play it as a package with the level 1, I'd bump it up to a 2.
I think it's 8-5.
8-5? Okay.
Yeah. Still big for level 1 combo. Yeah. Yeah, alright. Sounds reasonable to me.
Why do you guys always have to tell me after I've been embarrassed a few times? I got a name wrong.
Well, it's funny because you corrected yourself and then...
Dude, I thought
When
you were
you
doing it on
referenced-
purpose.
Well, if you didn't hear, he actually said Ayumi again when he was referencing the level 1 after correcting himself.
Oh,
Dude, I just thought it was on purpose, so I didn't want to. Yeah. Now I just want to put my Sasuke mask back on just to hide my embarrassment. Secondhand embarrassment.
whoa! You're so funny, man. 0/0 Setsuna. All of your other music characters get plus 500 power. When you use Accelerate, pay 1. If you have 4 or more other cards in clock, you may pay the cost. If you do heal 1. Yo! Counter interaction, boys. I'm down. When your character's trigger check reveals a climax, choose one of your characters and it gets plus 1000 power.
I'd be down if this did not have a clock restriction on the heal ability, but it does. 4 more cards is a lot of cards, guys. I feel like you usually will not be able to use this heal ability a lot. I think it's just sad. I'm sad.
the trigger check ability also specifies a climax, which makes it less inclusive. So I agree with you. I think it's a 1.
Yeah. Sadness. Next card.
0/0 Climax Combo. Put the top card of your deck into clock when this card attacks. If you have the gate climax in your climax area and you have another music character, you may pay the cost. If you do middle 3, then choose up to X music characters in your waiting room, return them to hand. X is equal to the number of your cards milled with a soul trigger. Was that? Am I reading this right? Okay,
Yes.
I am reading this right.
You can potentially +3 off this card, but it is a level 0 combo, so pretty situational.
Yeah,
What's
no,
up?
sorry. I was going to say one thing, but realized I was wrong. So that's my mistake.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, and these cards are usually just pretty situational and pretty deck specific. So,
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think this is played in a competitive deck. I'm just going to leave it at a 1.
feels bad.
That's what you think.
Yeah, this will
Wink,
be a
wink,
5
Nudge, nudge.
later. We'll come back to this card. I'm sure.
Prove me wrong on this card, please.
Oh man,
1/0.
I'm down.
Oh my
I would
goodness,
love-
dude. Dude, I think you guys are right. This is best girl. Dude, she's baking me a cake, guys.
It's not
Holy.
making you a cake.
When this card is placed on stage from hand, it gets plus 1500 power. Accelerate, put the top card of your deck into clock at the start of your climax phase. You may pay the cost. If you do, look at up to 1 card from the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 music character from among them, show it to your opponent, and add it to hand, send the rest to waiting room this turn. This gets plus 2000 power. Am I reading that right? Only 1 card?
Yes.
Yep.
You get to search the top card of your deck, dude. You know, yeah, I don't know, man. This is not good.
No, it's a 1.
Imagine missing with this card. Can't even get events. Very sad. All right, yeah. Next card.
I'm told that the cake is bait.
Okay.
Badge. Best girl though. I'm down.
Next card.
1/1 If you have
Sure.
another music character, this gets plus 1500 power and the following 2 abilities. It gets twin drive again, so pay 1 and then perform trigger check twice. And encore. And when this card's trigger check reveals a soul trigger, this turn it gets plus 1000 power until end of your opponent's next turn.
It's a 1/1 that you probably only play with standby. Unfortunately, like the 2/2 we discussed before, this is a little smaller for some reason, because it has twin drive. Do you think this is worthy of? I feel like you play this anyways, Patrick, but like we can talk about like the objective merit of this card, I guess.
Yeah, so this is the ideal 1/1 target for standby decks, sadly. There's another one we'll see in a little bit, but I don't think it's as impactful as this one. It sits very small on defense. Yeah, it means that your 1/1s and your 2/2s all have twin drive, which pushes more standby triggers. But when you're attacking with the card that sits smaller on defense than it usually does, isn't this the kind of card you would rather standby over? So it sort of contradicts itself, in my opinion, for a standby deck. And I really don't think this card is that good. I'm honestly going to give it a 1. I'd rather have a 1/1 7/5 hand encore vanilla as a target. Well, not vanilla, but typical profile.
Sad.
Sad.
Next card.
Imagine swinging into your opponent's turn and needing to hit 1 trigger to kill their card, and then not hitting a trigger.
That is the pits, unfortunately.
3/2 you moo. Cow go moo. When this card attacks, resolve the following effects twice. Choose one of your music characters this turn. It gets +1 soul. And when this card is reversed, if you have 2 or more other music characters and the battle opponent's level is 3 or lower, you may reverse that character.
A level 3 or lower bomb. Interesting. Maybe the first effect is. I think the first effect is probably more interesting.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to start this card off at a 3. The level 3 reverser isn't too much. It's not that important. But the thing that Tom said that stands out to me is the soul manipulation. And it's not just +1 soul. You actually get 2 individual soul to assign, which now allows you to pull off some interesting attack orders at level 3. Even at level 2, if you stand this by and it somehow survives a turn, just the soul manipulation can play a big role at level 3 for precise attacks to finish a game. So.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. Next card.
What do we rate it? Sorry.
3.
Man. You know, I should stay in my own lane, Patrick, but you gave this a 3 and the standby combo a 2. You should probably... Can you explain yourself to me, man?
Yeah, so I think standby decks are more defensive based. So the heal itself on the combo is perfectly fine, but I don't think you necessarily... You can... How do I word this? You're welcome to spend your resources on that extra 2 damage if it really means you can finish a game.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, standby decks tend to want to sit there, generate the stock naturally, so that way they can heal down the turn after.
Okay.
So it sort of contradicts what the standby deck wants to do. Yeah, it gives it a little extra top end push, but I don't see it being the main reason for playing the card at level 3. I think the heal is the main reason the card is played.
Fair enough.
It is just a burn 2 at the end of the day. So.
All right, fair enough. You know. Sorry, stepping out of my own lane. I'm just a commentator. A 0/0 when this card is placed on stage from hand, reveal the top card of your deck. For every card with a soul trigger revealed, all of your opponent's front row characters get minus 1,000 power, and it is a level 0 bomb. Bomb. It reverses level 0. Sorry, excuse me.
Yes. Thanks, Yue. I feel like the first effect is the most relevant effect. The second effect is just like nice to have. Like, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna give this card a 1. If the meta really needs this card, it can be bumped up to a 2. Yes, but even then, kind of inconsistent. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, so I think a 1 is totally appropriate here.
0/0 Iuma. Experience 5. Pay 1 restless. If the sum of levels in your level zone is 5 or more, perform one of the following 2 effects. Otherwise, perform one of the 2 following effects your opponent chooses. So if you guys understand, it's if you have 5, if you have experience 5, you can perform both effects. Otherwise, you have to pick one. So choose up to one of your music characters. Choose up to 2 of your music characters. Sorry. This turn they get +1 soul. And then B, reveal the top card of your deck. That card is a music character or an event. You may add it to hand.
Oh, wait. God,
you can't perform both of these abilities.
Until level 2, right? Yeah.
Yeah, level 2 is the earliest you can perform both.
Yes. Man, I misread this card so many times.
No, this card you still perform one of the 2 abilities. It's the difference of you get to choose versus your opponent gets to choose.
Wait, what?
So you choose one. So at level 2, you choose one, and then your opponent chooses one. Okay.
No. It's before level 2, your opponent chooses which ability you get.
Oh.
At level 2 or higher, you get to choose.
Sorry. I misread this. I'm such a cringe lord. 420 cringe.
Yeah, this changes the entire card.
Wait, sorry. I think chat. I'm sorry. It was 420 2 days ago. I'm still recovering a bit from that. I apologize. Yeah. So, if the sum of levels of the cards in your level zone is 5 or more, perform one of the following 2 effects. Otherwise, perform one of the 2 following effects your opponent chooses. Okay, so you get to choose if you have experience 5. Sorry, I'm cringe.
Card is not good.
No, it's not. When your opponent gets to choose what you get to do, and they choose what you don't want to do, that's a feels bad, man. It's a 1 star.
That's it. I mean, both effects are like not that bad, but like, I mean.
But you don't get to choose which one, which is the big thing.
Like, Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
0-0
Next
Setsuna.
card.
When this card is placed on stage from hand, mill 2. If there's a climax among those cards, choose one of your characters. It gets 1500 power. When this card is placed on stage from hand, choose one of your music characters, and it gets 1500 power.
It's potentially a 3K pump on play. Usually a 1500 pump. Kind of not. It's just like a decent-ish utility card, I think, but probably not that useful.
Yeah,
Most
I
of the
don't.
time.
I don't see this being that impactful. As you said, it's a useful utility card in the right circumstance. I don't think it goes higher than a 2-star.
Yeah, there are like notable reverse combos, which this helps out, but it literally does nothing else except mill 2. So
yeah.
Next card.
Next up, 0-0 You cannot play events or backups from hand. 4000 power.
Yeah.
1-star.
Yeah, I mean, this is, as we said before, this is an event-focused deck. If you have this on your board when you want to play an event, that is very awkward. So yeah, 1 is totally fine. There are other cards you can play. Yeah.
1-0 Iuma. Experience 1 during your turn. If the sum of levels of your card in your level zone is 1 or more, it gets plus 2500 power and gains the following ability. When this card attacks a level, when this card attacks, if the level of the character across from it is level 2, it gains 6000 power.
Right. This is an anti-standby card. I think it's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's a solid 2-star. I don't think it's much lower than that though. I think it's a supplementary level 1 that can be played into the right matchup.
Yep.
1-1 Setsuna. When your other music character attacks, it gets 1500 power for the turn. If 2 things attack before it, it'll attack at 8500 power. At the start of your encore step, if you do not have any other rested characters in your front row, at the start of the encore step, sorry, so it's not just it's both turns. You may pay the cost if you do rest this.
5/5 on the opponent's turn. Kind of yikes.
Yeah.
Pretty sad. I think everything runs this over, man. So yeah, probably just a 1, right?
It's a 1-star. The other 1/1 target sits at 6k on defense, which is even slightly better than this. So
Yeah. Next card.
2-1 When you use this card's backup, if you have a music character, it's an additional 1000 power, making it a 3500 backup total power.
Let's just rate it. And then,
2-star.
yeah, I agree.
Next up, 2-1 Setsuna. During your turn, for each of your other music characters, it gets plus 1000 power, making it attack at 11,000 on your turn. Accelerate, put the top card of your deck into your clock at the start of your climax phase. You may pay the cost. If you do, this card gets plus 1000 power and the following ability that when this card reverses its battle opponent, you may search your deck for a music character.
Sorry, I'm sorry. This is a reasonable accelerate ability, but unfortunately, it's not that big. Actually, it's just 12k if you accelerate, which is, I feel like it's just not that big enough. Not big enough.
Yeah. If the card alone can't contest 12/5 at level 2, you're gonna have an interesting battle into early plays and standby decks. So I don't think this hits the power threshold it needs to. I'm gonna give it a 1 because of that.
Yeah. Imagine accelerating for this and then losing the battle. Sad.
1-star it is. Next up, we have this. Oh, we're on to the events, the spicy stuff. My mic is hard. Weird. If you have 2 or less music characters, you cannot play this card from hand. Choose one of your music characters during this turn. It gets plus 1500 power and the following ability. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, deal 2 damage to your opponent.
Counter burn event. Pretty interesting, I think. You want to handle this one, Patrick?
So this, I'm gonna start this card off with a rating. I'm gonna give it 3 stars. And there's a reasoning tied into this with a card we'll see 2 cards from now that I'll go a little more in depth in then. The downside to this card is almost no downside. I don't think you have a board at level 2 on that has 2 or less music characters on stage unless you're having the worst end game possible. And it's a reasonable reasonable price cost for 1500 power and 2 damage. The on reverse being a counter, it allows you to get that extra 2 damage in on your opponent's turn if they're crashing into a character. If the 1500 does put you over a threshold, you can use this as well, and you get the burn 2 as well. You can also use this card on offense. So this can help give your characters enough power to win on attack and get an extra instance of 2 damage. So I'll compare this to a card in 2 cards from now, but I'm going to start it off at a 3.
Yeah. Sounds good. Next card.
I was muted. Sorry, chat. 2-1 event, counter experience 2. If the sum of levels of cards in your level zone is 2 or more, choose a character in your waiting room and add it to hand and send this card to memory. Recollection, discard 1 card at the start of your main phase. If this is in memory, you may pay the cost. If you do, add it to hand.
I don't know why the context is so weird on this. It's
Yeah.
just a salvage of 1 event. It's not that great.
No,
I don't-
it's a 1 star for me.
Yeah. I don't mind that rating either.
Next up,
Next card.
3-3 event. If you do not have a music character, you cannot play this card from hand. Choose one of your characters during this turn. It gets plus 1000 power and the following ability. At the start of your encore step, if this is in the front row, and the slot across from this has either a reverse character or no character, deal 1 damage to your opponent twice.
So, well, before Patrick talks about this card, we would like to note that this will proc if there's a direct lane. Just like, you don't need to necessarily reverse a card with this card.
Mhm.
Right? You can go ahead, Patrick.
So that direct attack option is the argument for this card being better than the 2-2 event. However, this card gives the character you're giving it to less power for a higher price for the overall damage being the same. So if we're looking at a cost versus efficiency type of card, that's why I favor the 2-2 over this card. I do understand that burn 1 is different than burn 2. It can make the difference of a game, but I think there's other tech in this set that can allow you as a player to hit that specific damage threshold without needing this card.
Mm-hmm.
I think the burn 2 on the 2-2, which is accessible 1 level earlier than this as well, can provide a lot more utility than this card alone.
The 2-2 is also way easier to stack, by the way, because it's just 2 cost. This is 3 cost.
Yep.
I feel like it's very hard to actually it's probably very hard to like stack this multiple times in a single turn, unless you just completely ran away with the game, in which case, nice. But yeah, I think it's way more reasonable to stack the 2-2 than the 3-3 for sure. And that could end up being way more impactful than just 1 instance of this 3-3 event, right? So
yeah.
What did you rate this card? I don't know.
I don't think I gave it a rating. I'm actually going to give it a 2. It's a close rating versus the 2-2, and I wouldn't be surprised if this card did surpass the 2-2, but I'm going to start it off the other way around.
Fair enough. And it's the last red card.
Intermission time. I apologize. I feel like
Live stream, dude.
me go to his live stream? Sure.
Inception. Just real quick.
Yeah, man. I actually watch your stuff. I just wanted you to know that. And YouTube. I watch your YouTube, so yeah.
Sweet.
All right. Should we move into blue
Time
then?
for blue? Yes.
I'm gonna give him a quick follow. Actually, you guys start first. I'll follow him after. I don't know.
Alrighty.
So first card of blue. I'm done fanboying here. 0-0 Emma. You cannot play events or backups from hand at the start of your climax phase until the end of your opponent's next turn. This gains one of the following 2 effects of your choice. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, you may draw 1, ditch 1. Or at the start of your opponent's attack phase, you may move this to an empty front row slot.
So 2,500. It mostly going to be a 2,500 free runner. The first effect we talked about is a bit of a detriment, but this is a free runner, not an oversized. So that in mind. What do you think, Patrick?
So this is a nice blue card for anything if you want to clock blue, this is a nice card to have as your turn 1, turn 2 play attacker. I don't think, as you said, the draw 1, ditch 1 really goes off that much. It can be nice to have early on, but it's not guaranteed because this only sits at 2-5. As you said, I really see this as a 0-0-2-5 free runner. So I'm honestly just going to start it off as a 2.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Next card.
A lot of 2s. 3. He might have surpassed Ryan for the amount of 2s in a stream. Wait, Patrick, if you look this serious, then my jokes aren't hitting as jokes. Like, come on, man.
I went like this. What do you want from me,
bro? He's doing gang signs for you, man. What the heck?
You can't just say that, man. Jokes. I digress. 3-2 Karen. When you would pay cost for an event being played from your hand, you may use 1 marker from underneath this card instead of 1 stock. Pay 1, discard 1 card. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you may pay the cost. If you do search your deck for up to 1 event, show it to your opponent, add the hand, and shuffle your deck afterwards. Then you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck and place them underneath this card face down as markers. Climax combo with the pants climax or gate if your name is Bowstone Sync. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, if you have the pants climax in the climax area, you may send that character to clock. Shoutouts to you, Connor. I just shout out your YouTube. Check out Bowstone Sync. That was not a flame.
All right. We've talked about the. Sorry. Let me restart. This is an event-focused set. The first 2 abilities are very relevant for any deck in this set, I think. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, I think the first 2 effects are pretty nice. But you mentioned earlier that you liked this Climax combo, right? You like this as a function, like as a level 3 like option, right?
Yeah.
Patrick?
So this set, as we've mentioned multiple times at this point, is event focused, or at least it has a lot of impactful events, in my opinion. In order to make your top end events more consistent, this kind of card needs to be played. So if you're running events at level 2 or level 3, I think you're always playing this card, whether it's a 1, 2, 3, 4 of, I think it's going to be in your deck. Which means if you're playing this card, why not just play the pants with it? If you're playing the standby instead, I can understand. I'm not too sure which one is going to end up being the better one in the long run. But the pants also gives you another out to any level 1 combo you're playing if you don't hard draw that climax. So this card doesn't sit that large, but all of the events, most of the events, give power. So you can use the markers underneath this to decrease the cost for those events. You can use multiple events in the same turn because of that and still save some of your stock. I think it's got overall a very good synergy for the set. So I'm actually going to give this card a 3.
Okay.
Sorry, is Karen not the name of this? Is it Karin or something?
No, it's
Hi.
actually Karen.
Well, someone's trolling me in the chat. What the heck? Being trolled. I'm being gaslit here. Moving on. 3-2.
It might be pronounced with a longer A, so it might be something more similar to Karin.
Karin.
Yeah.
Karin.
But Kara and Karen, I don't think really makes too much of a difference. So.
Anyways, 3-2 Kanata. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you may heal one. Discard a music character at the start of your attack phase. If this card is in the front row and is standing, and you have another music character, you may rest it. And if you do, you perform the following 2 effects in the order of your choosing: deal 1 damage and deal 3 damage.
It's pretty solid blue healer, I think. It, the second effect is pretty interesting, actually, if you want to talk more about that aspect of the card, Patrick.
So this effect it's flavorful in itself, but I think it actually has a stronger possibility, or a higher possibility for this kind of card, especially at level 3. Kanata is always falling asleep as a character, so she tends to miss everything that goes on when she falls asleep. So that's where the flavor comes in. This card avoids battle phase, but it still deals an instance of damage. And the fact that you can decide how much damage to deal at that point is very impactful, especially at level 3 if you're looking to end a game. You don't necessarily want to overswing, you don't want to underswing, you want to make sure you're hitting for the right amount. So this card can either let you swing for that 1 damage you need, or lets you swing for 3 without needing a climax or a soul trigger. The downside to this is it's an auto ability, so any sets, any matchups that you run into with anti-damage, anti-ping can decrease the value of this card. But if you're running blue at your top end, this is a solid healer. It's a solid card to consider running 2 or 3 of, because it avoids any shenanigans, any backups, any counter events, and still lets you get that damage in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm honestly going to give this card a 4 to start off with. As I said, I think blue is the better top end for this set at the moment. And because this heals and lets you get in that damage without being in the battle phase, I think it's going to be more impactful than a lot of people think.
Sounds good to me. The first 4, I think.
Yes. But there was a card I think deserved a 4, but I'm still a bit triggered about it. Patrick, we will have a long talk about this later. But 0-0 Kanata. During your opponent's turn, this card gets plus 2,000 power. At the start of your main phase, this card gains the following ability. At the start of your encore step, if this card is in the front row in stand, rest it, reveal the top card of your deck, send that card to stock, then deal X damage to your opponent. X equals to the total number of soul triggers revealed plus 1. It's a lot of text, but it's actually just a attack simulator effect, basically.
Yeah, it ignores battle phase like the previous Kanata does, but at level 0. Wow, cool.
Yeah. And this card sits at 4k on defense with no downside.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't see a reason not to play this as blue at level 0 if you're running blue mid game or even at level 2. I'm honestly going to give this card a 3. I think it's strong because you still get the stock for the simulated attack, but again, it avoids battle phase, which is really, really underrated in my opinion.
Fair enough, yeah. You can do interesting stuff with this card, this. You can put this in front of big cards that it would not win in battle against, and just get basically a free attack, right? So.
Yep, and anything that has,
sure.
Anything that has anti-front attack as well, or neg soul, doesn't affect this card.
Yeah.
Yes.
Honestly, yeah, I think we gave it a 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very appropriate. I think this is a weird card, but has a lot of potential. Yeah, totally agree with the 3. Next
Imagine
card.
not getting your plusing trigger effect because of this card. No flame.
Okay, well.
Should have top deck checked.
Should have top deck.
Even if it's at the beginning of encore phase, should have top deck checked.
1-0 Kanata. When you use this card's backup, if you have another music character, it's basically a 2,000 power backup.
Yeah, this is the 2,000 power backup I mentioned earlier. There's really nothing to say about it. It's a 2.
Yeah. Sounds good. Next card.
1-0 Karin. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you have another music character this turn. This gets plus 2,000 power. Discard one music character. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, you may pay cost. If you do, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your stock. Choose up to 1 card from among them, add it to hand, and put the rest back into your stock. And shuffle your stock afterwards. Oh boy. Oh, I'm cringing.
Yeah, shuffling your stock. Not something that most players enjoy. I think it's pretty unpredictable in a zone that should be predictable, right? So it's also just not that big, unfortunately.
No,
you want to just rate it, Pat?
It's a 1-star. You pretty much said everything there is about this.
Yeah. Sadness. What if it didn't shuffle the stock, though? OP.
If
Next
it didn't
card.
shuffle the stock, yeah, that would be something different.
Next up, 1-0 Emma. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, you have a climax. In the climax area, you may put the top card of your deck into stock.
Right. This is like a classic profile. It literally just does that, though. Doesn't do anything else, unfortunately. If you need the stock, I guess you run this, but I feel like there are probably better cards to play.
Yeah, there are better level 1s to play in the set. The big thing to note is, unlike cards similar to this profile where you need a startup to activate it, you actually need a climax to activate this, which I feel is less consistent than getting a startup.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this kind of profile is just worse than the other kind of blind stalkers.
Yes.
So
yeah, it is definitely worse than the act variant.
yeah, so 1-star on my end.
Fair enough.
Next up,
Next
2-1
card.
Karin. When you use this card's backup, send X cards from the bottom of your opponent's deck to waiting room. X equals the number of your music characters, and it's a 3,000 power backup. Interesting.
The inverse Ruby counter. I think UA is very well acquainted with the Ruby counter profile, but this is a little bit different. What do you have any thoughts on this card, Patrick?
So unfortunately, this isn't the Ruby counter, as we've already pointed out. So even if I were to play this against UA, it wouldn't win me the game.
This guy took me and SBTCG Christian out of Swiss at Worlds with Ruby counter. That's the story. Well, we didn't get taken out, but we lost to Patrick because of literally Ruby counter.
Yeah. So going back to this card, I think this profile is worse than the Ruby counter. I don't think it has as much immediate impact unless your opponent is at a deck state small enough to hit refresh during that attack phase. I think that's the only comparable situation you can say for both of these cards. Otherwise, it doesn't take climaxes off the top of your opponent's deck. It only takes them off the bottom, which means if you take them off the bottom, they were there to begin with anyway. So honestly, in my eyes, it's a 3k backup that mills your opponent X and puts them closer to refresh. I'm honestly going to give it a 1.
Mm.
Unfortunate.
Needed nerf for the Ruby counter.
Oh,
Too
yeah,
strong.
Too much power. Next card.
I've lost too many games to Ruby counters, man. Oh my goodness. 3-2 Emma. If you have 2 or less climaxes in your waiting room, this gets -1 level in hand. During your turn, for each of your other music characters, it gets 500 power, making it cap at 12,000 power with a full board. And during the turn that this card is placed on stage from hand, when this card's battle opponent is reversed, look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 2 music characters from among them, show them to opponent, add them to hand, and send the rest to waiting room.
Right. So, to start, it's, as UA said, a 12k early play during your turn, and the condition is nice. It's like pretty easy. But as is common, seems to be the theme with the set, the last effect, the most unique effect, is like I think where most of the discussion will happen about this card. So, if you want to say something about this card, Patrick, go ahead.
So this card attacking for 12k gives it the ability to hit power thresholds with the events needed to get reverses both at level 2 and level 3, which is really nice. Unfortunately, it's only on attack, so the 2/2 counter event doesn't have as much synergy with this card unless you're using it offensively. But as was mentioned, the big thing is the second ability. And yes, you heard UA read it correctly. It searches for up to 2 characters from the top 4, which means you're actually netting cards off of this card. It's not an early play that replaces itself. It actually goes positive. So if you have the right control mill after your refresh and you're able to early play this, you can actually plus off this for hand while winning a lane with an early play, which is really important in my opinion. I'm actually going to give this a 4 because this could be a little undervalued from the general consensus at first look, but I think it's much stronger than people give it credit for.
All right, yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, seems appropriate. There's also a card that pluses you from Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay. 0/0 Karin. When your other music character attacks, if that character's power is over the opposing character's power by 2,000 or more during that character's battle, your opponent cannot play events or backups. And rest this to pump a character 500 power.
Kind of wish this did something else because I think the first ability can be actually quite nutty depending on what you play. Do you agree with that, Patrick? Or
I do agree, but it does set a threshold for 2,000 or more, which means you have to be essentially running over your opponent's characters.
right.
So any lanes that would be contesting within that 2,000 threshold, this ability wouldn't activate for and is honestly useless otherwise. I think it has potential, but I don't think the 2,000 power is what needed to be there for this kind of effect to be relevant. I think if it was 1,000 or 1,500, it would be much more playable. So I'm gonna start this card off at a 2, but a low 2.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
I heard. So what I heard was this card would have to be broken for it to be playable. Nice one. No, because you would just shut off all counters. Period. Basically, no. Oh no, not all, but like you would.
Well, it's more of the fact that the 2,000 means you're running over a lane. You're essentially tying, which doesn't necessarily make it worth it for your opponent, a 102k counter, or you're beating that character and you would force your opponent to use a costed backup.
True.
So what's the real worth at that point? Usually the backups are for the closer battles that are within threshold, which means this card would be better the smaller the threshold is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Unfortunate.
Unfortunate.
Next card.
0/0 Emma. All your other music characters get plus 500 power. Climax Combo with the pants picture below. You may rest this. When the pants climax is placed on your climax area, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one music character from your waiting room and put it into stock.
She's the stock charging girl, I guess. This combo is probably not worth playing.
No,
I don't
it's
think
not.
It doesn't combo with anything else, right? Okay, yeah.
No, I wish this card was more playable. It seems cool, but it's a 1.
Yeah. Next card.
0/0 Kain. At the start of your opponent's attack phase, you may move this to an empty slot in your front row.
Yeah. yeah. You would give it 2? That's fine. That's totally fine. There is probably a better option though that we talked about earlier.
1/0 Kanata. Discard 1 climax. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose 1 music character from your waiting room and add it to hand. And when this is reversed, battle opponent's cost is 0 or lower. You may send that character to the bottom of your opponent's deck?
Kind of a. You have to be playing blue at level 1 for this, I think. I'm not sure how common that's going to be.
I think in order to make this card playable, you would have to be playing an 8 pants list.
Right.
Unfortunately, there's no green in the set, so there's no gold bars.
Yeah.
It would make, if there were gold bars, it would make this card comparable to the Fate 1-0, but there isn't, which means this card just innately is worse in the set, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's another solid discard Climax salvage option that is a level 0, so no color required.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give this card a 1.
Feels bad. Next card.
1-0 Kanata. Sorry. When this card is placed on stage from hand, if you have another music character this turn, it gets plus 2,000 power, making it 6,500 power as an attacker. Climax Combo, when this card attacks, if you have the book Climax in your Climax area, if you have another music character, this turn it gets 1,000 power, and until end of your opponent's next turn, it gains the ability of when this card is frontal attack, you may return it to hand, aka lose to new data bullet cards.
Unfortunate. Yeah. This is pretty big, but like combo is just okay, and the trigger is not good. Unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm not going to go as far as a 1 for this. I'm actually going to give it a 2, just because it is a playable combo. It doesn't mean it's the best playable combo by no means, but it is something that exists for a possibility. I think they're better cards to run, but I don't think it's the worst card. So that's why I'm putting it at a low 2.
Fair enough.
Next one, 2-1 Emma, assist 2,000 power to level 3 or higher characters in front of this card. Sorry, Freudian slip. Pay 5 at the start of your opponent's climax phase. You may pay the cost if you do heal up to 1. Then choose one of your opponent's characters and it gets -2 soul until end of turn.
So I think it's one of the only 2K assists to level 3s in the set.
It is the only.
Yeah. Which kind of just, you probably have to run this card. But, you know, the second effect is worth talking about, I think, a little bit. It is super expensive, but probably appropriately impactful for that cost, I think.
Pay 5, I think, is a little too much in my opinion. I think pay 4 would be a little more reasonable. The heal 1 is what gets to me for this. If this were heal 2 -2 soul for 5, I would understand that. But heal 1 -2 soul, I feel as if they're better cards and better characters, or better ways to use your resources than this ability. Not to say that this card won't be run in decks, not to say that this effect could win you a game. I just think that in an overall sense, this is too niche, and there are better general options. But as a card itself, I'm actually going to give this a 2, just because of the 2,000 assist, and the potential to pull this off.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with everything you said, I think.
Next up,
watch out. You know, this card could sneak in there because, you know, every deck has to run this, I think. So, you know, keep that in mind.
It's true. Next up, 0-0 Kanata. It's a 1,000 power assist to level 0 characters in front of it. And then pay 1, rest 2 characters. Flip over the top 4 cards of your deck. And for each climax, repeat the ability of look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, choose a card and add it.
It's tap 2 brainstorm with the weirdo, not a standard brainstorm ability. I feel like there's probably very little reason to run this over any of the brainstorms we've talked about so far.
The only reason you run this is for waifu reasons, in my opinion. They're better. They're 2 better brainstorms we've already gone over in the set, so I'm gonna give it a 1.
Yep.
0-0
Next
Emma.
card.
When this is reversed, choose 110 Karin Vanilla. Again, we don't review vanillas, but it's pictured below for you guys in your waiting room, and you may send it to stock.
No, I don't think so. Don't play this card, I think.
So I'm gonna contradict you here, Tom.
All right, that's fair. I'm totally fine with that.
It's not that big of a contradiction. I don't think it's that great, but we have seen profiles similar to this show up in other sets, in other decks. I don't think this is something to necessarily look over. I think this is something to keep in mind for the extra compression, for the extra resource generation. I think the timing on it is the biggest downside. You need to have this character be reversed rather than it be on play, which is a lot of the other profiles similar to this that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I'm actually going to give this card a high 1 to start off, but it could sneak in as a 2 and be played in decks that run blue.
It's fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, extra stock gen, like pre-stock gen, is kind of a unique rarity still at this point, so I can totally understand that angle. So, yeah.
If you have 5 or more hand, this 00 Kain gets 2,000 power, making it a 3,500 power card. And at the start of your Encore step, if you do not have any other rested characters, at the start of the Encore step, not your Encore step, I made that mistake already once. If you do not have another rested character in your front row, you may pay cost if you do rest this.
I think there are better level 0 options in this card. It's... Oh, you can feel free to disagree if you want, Patrick. I'm totally fine with
I don't necessarily disagree. I just think that this card is actually fine to play at level 0. It's a beater that's a 1-cost Encore. So I don't think that's something to necessarily look over, but as you said, I think there are better utility options. This is just a front row character that if you're looking for a turn 1 play in a blue base deck, this might be one of the contending options.
That's fair enough, I think. Yeah. I just this kind of stuff loses to like level 0 bombs, unfortunately, like removal bombs and such, right?
So it's more of an argument. I'm sorry.
I would have liked it to get a level or something, but you're right that this is like a totally fine level 0 plusing option. I wouldn't give it a 1 or anything, I think, but
I think
kind of like a yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to step on toes here. That's my mistake. I just think it's more of the argument over, do you want power and possible recurrence versus something like a free runner. Both of them have their strengths, both of them have their weaknesses. So
yeah, that's fair. On that note, what do you want to give this card, Patrick?
I'm actually going to give it a 2. I don't think it goes much higher than that at all, though.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Next up, 00. Are we even supposed to be looking at this scene? Feels kind of what's the term?
She's just sleeping.
Voyeurism.
It's flavor. She sleeps, man.
Don't make it weird, man.
Don't wake her up.
Why are we even here to begin with, though? When this card is placed on stage from hand, choose up to one of your opponent's characters, send it to memory. Then your opponent places that character on stage in the slot of their choosing.
It's a blinker. We run them for meta reasons. This literally does nothing else, so
I still give it a solid 2 for the blinker.
Yeah, of course. Like, if you need this, you will know. Like, it is very obvious when this card is important. So, I mean, she's the kind of character that just kind of if you hang out with her, she'll just fall asleep, I think. So, yeah, that's the reason why we're here. We're hanging out with her, and she just fell asleep.
Moving on, 10 Emma. During your turn, if your other character in the front row center slot, during your turn, your other front row character in the front row center slot gets plus 1,000 power, and the following ability that it cannot be targeted by your opponent's effects. We call that hexproof in the Weiss jargon world. Flip over the top 4 cards of your deck, then send them to waiting room. It's a brainstorm. that searches for music characters.
This is kind of interesting. There's like, obviously, like the only interesting part is the first effect, I think, compared to the other brainstorms, right? If do you have any thoughts on viability of this brainstorm based on the first effect alone, basically?
Viability. So, based on the first effect, no. Based on the level of this card, yes. This being a 1/0 brainstorm means you actually need to meet color requirement for it, whereas every other brainstorm, the other 3 that we've seen in this set, are all level 0s, meaning you can play them at any time whenever you need them. So unless you're playing a blue-based level 1, which I don't think is the right play in this set, I don't think this is as playable as, honestly, any of the other 3 that we've seen.
That is very true. We talked about it when we talked about the bomb, but yeah, that is a huge roadblock to playing this card. So yeah.
Yeah, so because of that alone, I'm going to give it a 1. I think the first ability is perfectly fine, and it works with other tech for other decks, but the color and it requiring the color to be played, I think is the biggest downside.
Yeah.
Next
You
up.
don't think this could... Oh, no.
Sorry.
I just want to quickly... You don't think this could be, like, replace the brainstorm in the back row later? Because you probably do run quite a bit of blue, but...
It could, but at that point, I don't think this is the best brainstorm to run just because of the search versus the possible salvage from the red brainstorm. I wouldn't be surprised to see it splashed of as like a 1 of in a deck, but no more.
That's fine. Just wanted to clear that up. And I agree, but for the record, yeah, I don't disagree at all. I think there are some interesting struggles with running blue level 1, level 2 cards in the set. So, next card.
This 2/1 Kanata. When this card is reversed, if the battle opponent's level is higher than your opponent's level, you may send that character to the bottom of your opponent's deck. It has hand encore. Kind of cringe, not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's an exchange bomb. But the yellow one is just better, right? Yeah.
I don't understand why or how you would ever hand encore this. If this survives, if this wins a lane.
Oh, it does have 2 soul. It does have 2 soul.
Oh, that's true. Oh, yeah, it is 2 soul. But, I mean, come on.
I still like the yellow one better. I mean, okay. So if we're taking them at face value, a 2/1 that gets rid of an early play, whether it be a 2/2 and your opponent's still at level 1 while you're at level 2, or a 3/2. This card does have more... it entices you to play it more than the yellow just because of the 2 soul, because you get the value from that. But for color reasons, I think the yellow one is a little better.
I would have to agree.
What would you rate it?
So this, I'm actually going to give it... I'm going to give it a 2, just because it's a bottom decker. It's hard removal nonetheless, but I don't think it goes higher than a 3. So I'm going to start it at a 2.
Fair enough. Next card.
2/1 Kain. When this card attacks this turn, it gets plus X power. X equals the number of your other music characters times 1,000, making it attack at 10,000. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is a music character, add it to hand.
Probably not big enough, honestly, for level 2. And even if it were, the second effect is kind of not very good.
Yeah,
it's just not enough reward.
No selectivity on it.
Yeah,
but if you win on counter on opponent's turn, you get to leave a counter.
Ooh, plussing leaf a counter.
Wait, it's pretty sick. But
yeah, but it's 6k, bro. It'll be 6k. What is it winning on defense?
I just want to point that out, man.
Good luck getting this to win. Nobody's gonna give us a free reverse, dude.
If I play against Iuma and he plays this set and
Oh
this
my
wins on
God.
defense and gets that ability,
Scoop time.
I've already lost the game.
10 gifted. 10 gifted immediately. Yeah. What do you give this, Patrick?
This is a 1-star for me.
Yeah. Next card.
2/1 Emma. If you have 2 or more other music characters, it gets +1 level, and this cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects. When this card attacks this turn, it gets +X power. X equals the number of your other music characters times 1,000, making it attack at 12,000 power.
I feel like the intent is to stack.
11,000.
Yeah, it's a 1. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no,
Wait.
it's
11K.
also 11,000, not 12.
Yeah, it's 11K.
Oh, sorry. So my math. Sorry.
I do. It is a 1. Just want to quickly,
Yeah.
mention something. I feel like the intent here is to stack events on this because it's hexproof, but like unfortunately, it doesn't do anything. That's the problem. So, like, why would you run this? There are better cards. Stack your events effects on your level 3s, guys. Don't get fooled. There are better cards to, run your events with than this card.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, a 1 is very appropriate.
All right, on to the events, the final stretch of events. This 2/3 counter, you cannot play this. You can play this without meeting color requirements. So you can play this card completely independent of what colors you want to put in your deck, even though it's a 2/3. If you have 5 or more other music characters, choose one battling character. This turn, it gains the following ability. This card cannot deal damage to players. This is my favorite card in all of Weiss Schwarz. Yeah, we call it money counter, the anti-damage counter. I love these cards. They're my favorite. Yeah, and choose one of your characters during this turn. It gets +1,000 power on the use of this event.
Undoubtedly powerful effect, but 5 or more is kind of problematic for cards like this, I think. But there is like a ton of support for events like this in this set. So, what do you think, Patrick?
So I've thought about this card over the past 24 hours. UA made me think about this because of all of the conditions this card has. Honestly, I'm actually settling at this card as a 4 to start off. The reason being, you don't have to have color requirement for this card. You can play this in any deck whatsoever, and there's no downside other than the 5 or more, but we'll get to that. You can splash it in even at a 1-of. I believe the next event we'll see, that is in blue as well, but we'll see it gives this card at a lower copy count just as much consistency. It also gives +1,000 power, so it can win a lane, but it is a money counter that can be played in any deck, and it forces your opponent to play around the 5 or more condition. If it forces your opponent to play a main phase bounce rather than a healer, you can take that as a win. It means you have 2 to 3 more stock, 2 being if you have the 3/2 Karen on stage, and you use a marker to help pay for this cost, 3 being if you don't. But you can save resources to then push that advantage the next turn if you survive. So there's a lot of gates to jump through for this card, but it can be played anywhere.
I think you said everything. Yeah, it's. I think a 4 is totally appropriate. Actually, this is an interesting one because I really want to see what players are going to do because of no color requirement on a card like this is quite interesting. Honestly, yeah.
I'm glad I was able to lobby you to upgrade it since we last spoke about this card. I appreciate that. Dude, my favorite cards just can't get less than a 4, man. No way. Not on this show.
Next card.
Too bad Sets Nagata 2.
3/1 event. Perform the following effect twice. There's a lot of girls on this event. You may discard 1 card if you do choose an event in your waiting room and add it to hand. They're all there.
Yes, it's all 9. 10. All 10.
Wow,
10.
cringe.
I think this is a pretty interesting effect. Like, we don't really see stuff like this too often. It is a -1, keeping that in mind, but just event selection really kind of it is like a game warping ability, right, Patrick? Like,
Yeah.
It really just changes how we look at events as cards.
So the best way I can clarify this card is, and I don't want to do this, but I have to. I'm comparing it to Duffel Bag from Goblin Slayer, just for the idea that this is the toolbox event card. Yes, it's a hard neg because you play this card and then you have to discard to get the events. So you're losing one card from hand just to hand fix, but depending on what events you're getting, can have infinitely more value than that one card in your hand. If you can grab your money counter, if you can grab your 2/2 counter, if you can grab your 3/3 event, if you can grab your 1/0 event that salvages you a climax, you're now talking about this toolbox level 3 option that gives you different ways to do what you want when you want. I don't think it's a strong card alone. I think this has to be run with the right package, which is why I'm going to start it off surprisingly at a 2. But I don't think you run more than 1 or 2 copies of this, because this card essentially equals 1 more copy of every other event you're running in your deck.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you rate it? Sorry.
I rated a 2.
Sorry, we got a DM from our one of our sponsors. I had to read it. Sorry.
I
2 it
see.
is.
There was a lot I had to say on this card, so I do apologize, but there's a lot of reasoning behind this card.
2 it is.
Yeah.
Final card of blue before promos. We got this 3/2 event. Choose 2 of your characters during this turn. They gain the following ability of they cannot be reversed.
We've seen events like this. This is just like a super version of that, because it gives 2 characters, not just 1, and it costs 1 more appropriately. Definitely feels like an underwhelming one compared to the other ones we've seen. I don't know about you, Patrick.
Yeah.
But,
So on its own, I think they're better events to run in this set. However, it does avoid on reverse abilities at level 3 for multiple lanes. I just think there's a better way to use that 2 stock on your turn rather than on your opponent's turn. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it pop up as a 1 of in a deck, but playing it is only match dependent.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this card a 1, but it doesn't mean it's unplayable.
Fair enough.
1 it is. All right. Now, straight into box promos. We have 9 of these. 10 of these, sorry, for the 10 different... I made the Tom mistake there. 10 different band members in this set. Let's just get straight into it. 0/0 Shizuku. If this card is in the front row center slot, it gets +1 level and +2500 power.
It's a classic oversized profile. I mean,
Yep, solid
it's
2.
an option. Yeah.
There's not much to say about these promo cards. There's really only like one that... Yeah,
Sure.
one that I have eyes on, but that's it.
1/0 Shioriko. When this card attacks, choose one of your other music characters. It gets +X power. X equals that character's soul times 1000.
It's like a Shimakai power pump card that scales a little bit, but yeah, I mean, if you need it, you need it.
Yeah, the only thing it helps is the 2/1/2 soul. The cards that have twin drive don't get extra power because they haven't twin drived yet. So this card is honestly a 1 for me.
Fair enough.
Wait, it does get it if it twin drives.
No,
it doesn't.
Oh yeah, sorry.
giving
I'm
this
sorry.
the power based on
Is
their
it a
soul
1?
at
Sorry,
the moment.
we don't even need to talk about it. I completely. I'm just trolling.
Yeah, it's a 1. It's a 1.
It's a 1. I'd prefer we just move on. I'm such an idiot.
Next card.
2/1 assist Rina. It's a level assist. When this card is placed on stage from hand, look at up to 2 cards from the top of your deck and put them back on top in the original order. And when this card is placed on stage from hand, look at up to 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck and put them back on top in the original order.
I feel like the Emma 2K assist is better, but this is like okay, I guess.
Yeah, I don't see this being very amazing. The knowledge is nice, but it's only on play. I'm gonna give it a 2 just because it's a level assist. So
Yeah.
Next up, 2-1 Kasumi. During your turn, for each of your other music characters, it gets plus 1,000 power. The character across from this gets plus 2 soul. I'm just gonna give it 1, guys. This.
Yes.
Yep.
Don't run this, please.
Yeah, unless you want to give your opponent some dubs. Next up, 0-0 I. Discard 1 card. When this card is placed on stage from hand, mill 2. You may, if you mill the climax, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose a character from your waiting room and add it to hand. Second ability, it's a pay 1. Discard a card. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose a music character from your waiting room. Add to hand. Choose one of your other music characters. It gets 1,000 power. This is your typical drop salvager. Oh boy, this is actually really good.
Is this the card? Is this the promo you had your eyes on, Patrick?
Yep. How'd you know?
Right. You know, I just know these things. It requires a high IQ to understand you, Patrick. But I try my best.
What the heck?
You can talk about this card a little bit then. I think it's pretty sweet, but
Yeah, so this card is a potential double discard outlet for 1 stock if you hit the climax on the mill. It's a drop salvage, gives power, pretty typical profile we're all used to nowadays. The discard to salvage is a hand fix. It's a discard outlet for anything like a standby deck. It's stronger than it looks. This is the most playable promo, in my opinion, from the box toppers. I'm actually going to give this a high 2. I was considering putting it to a low 3, but both of these are pretty standard utility options. But if you high roll, have the potential to be a more impactful card.
right, yeah. Well, we talked a bit about double discard outlets, and this is one you get at 0, and double salvage sounds pretty nice. Let's be real. Yeah.
I think
High 2 sounds fine.
I don't usually do this during the cast, but I think for this effect as a promo, I think the price tag, it might seem high right now, guys, but if we don't get it now, I feel like it's gonna go up more. So
Yeah, I think there's no reason for. I feel like this will be in most decks. There's just no
yeah.
downside.
There's no downside.
Like, the busted thing here is you can just, if you have a card you really need in your waiting room, you could just let the first effect roll, and if you happen to mill a climax, you just got that card for 0 stock. And then if you miss the first effect, you can, okay, sure, I have to pay 1 to get my card.
Yeah.
But it's so, don't underestimate this card, guys. I think it's super, it's like one of those things like the 1/1 you talked about. Super understated, I think.
Pat?
It's similar to the Mari drop search.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah. And that card, it's on the ban list. So
Yeah, just guys, I think so the price tag is, mentioning our sponsor Nova TCG, they have it on their site right now. I think like you just do yourself a favor, get these now, because like I'm dead honest, this is not me like shilling, like no one told me to say this. I just think get this early because this is gonna go up more. There's more sets coming out in the future. This will just keep going up. This card is good.
yeah.
Uh,
You know what? We're not chilling. This is like just advice, honest advice.
what would you rate it?
Cards
Pat?
like this. I think you gave it a high 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna start it at a high 2, but it has the potential to be pushed to a 3. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Wait, dude, I might give this a 5. It's so good. But I love standby. So.
But it'd only be like a 5 because the box topper, right? It's so messed up that they would.
it's also the fact the 5 requires a high roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
next up, 0-0 Setsuna. When this card attacks, choose one of your other music characters. This turn it gets X power. X equals the number of your other music characters times 500. When this card is sent from stage to waiting room, you may pay the cost if you choose one music character from your waiting room and add it to hand.
Right. This is like yet another power pump Shimakai effect. Literal Shimakai this time. And it also maybe will get you a +1 for 2 stock. Seems just okay to me.
I think it is okay. It's very similar to the trial deck card that we reviewed earlier
Right.
on. It allows you to tri-field and win another lane. You can side with this card against a level 0 and win the lane you're trying to contest. But then you can pay 2 of the 3 stock you generated that turn to grab whatever card you need back for the following. So it's a good utility card. I don't think it's the strongest utility card. I think the drop salvage we saw earlier is better than this, but it's definitely a playable option.
Yeah. What did you rate it or?
No, I haven't yet. It's a 2 to me.
Okay.
1-0 Iumi. If all your other characters are music, it gets 1,000 power, and it's a level 1 bomb, so it reverses. If the battle opponent is level 1, it can reverse it if this card gets reversed.
It's a 4K bomb, which is oversized a little bit for bombs, but I mean, honestly, I feel like you probably don't run this card.
No, I think they're better
There's nothing
options.
Yeah.
1 for me.
Next card.
Ayumu, sorry. I said Ayumi again.
Yes, you
1-0
did.
Kain. When this card attacks, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is a music character or event, give it 3,000 power for the turn.
It's just so small. It's just so small.
It's just a 1. That's right.
Wait. I misread the. Yeah. I mean, wait. 3K power. Wait. I just misread the card. I'm cringe. I'm sorry. This is a potential 3K pump, and it hits on events.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
it's other.
Sorry, guys.
It's not
Sorry,
itself.
guys.
You're
I
cringe,
actually
Tom.
thought- I thought it was an add to hand effect. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
I thought it only pumped itself, and I read the card. I'm so cringe, guys. Ignore
Yeah.
us. Patrick, break this down for us. Me and Tom,
Yeah,
we're
Pat-
both low, smooth-brained here.
So
We're 1 out of 5 right now.
So this card, we've seen similar profiles. We've seen a 2/5 pump on level 1s played before, but that's in decks that require reverses. So if your deck does require a reverse and you're able to splash in blue, by the way, this is blue, just as another clarification, it is a viable play. I think the color is a downside to it because the on reverse effects are yellow, and I don't think there's a level
Red.
1 blue on reverse. Yeah, it's red from
Yeah,
the trial
blue,
deck, so it's
yeah.
yellow and red. So now you're running a dual color level 1, which makes this less consistent, but it doesn't make it unplayable. I'm going to give this a 2 because we've seen the 2/5 pumps in the past. So this is
Mhm.
definitely something to consider.
1-0 Emma. When this card is placed on stage from hand, choose one of your other music characters. It gets 2,000 power. Rest 2 of your standing characters. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your characters against the following ability. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, you may put the top card of your deck into stock.
I think this is the best stock chart. Well, yeah. I mean, Patrick gave me the hand signs, but it is probably a bit better than the stock charger ammo we saw before, but it's not like great, unfortunately, because it's still only 6K. So
The biggest downside is resting 2 standing characters, which means you're not able to brainstorm that turn. If this rested 1 character, now you're able to brainstorm and throw something in the back row to generate a stock. I don't think the rest 2. I think the rest 2 makes this card unplayable. I'll be wholly honest.
Okay. So
one it
I
is
assume
then.
a 1.
So
It's a
yeah,
one it is?
I'm gonna give this a
Alright.
1.
Fair enough.
Next up, 2-1 Kanata, and the final card of the Best Ever Wish for Set Review Show, Episode 5, Love Live, Nijigasaki. 2-1 Kanata. All of your other music characters get plus 1,000 power. Rest this, choose one of your characters. This turn against the following ability. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, you may send that character to the bottom of your opponent's deck. I thought we would not see this in the set. I did not see it, but now it is the final card. It finally appears. This profile, guys, break it down.
It's a I feel like this is only going to be played in standby lists, right? If it's going to be played at all.
I think if it's played at a 1 of, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's specific to a standby deck. The bottom deck does have relevance in a lot of matchups,
Yes.
so it is more relevant in the standby deck. But it's also good for hand encore early outs. It's good to get rid of pesky cards that can stick around multiple turns. So it is it's very playable, and in my opinion, as a side note, I think this is the best art for Kanata in the set. So because of both of those combined, I'd actually give this card a 2.
All right.
All right. All right.
And that's it.
Is it it? It is literally it. Boys, that is it for episode 5 of the Best Ever Weiss Schwarz Set Review Show featuring SBTCG Patrick Garrity. Before I, end off this show, I do want to say that one of our sponsors, Nova TCG, wanted me to let all of you know who are still tuned into the stream that Love Life Sunshine Nijigasaki is up and available for order now. It is Thursday. It's always Friday somewhere. It's always sunny in Philadelphia. And, get your singles ordered. Like I said, that promo, that $29.99 price tag promo, I think it only has potential to go up. Thank you, Hikimanao, for posting the link in our chat. Thank you guys. I think that promo, I would pick it up if I was very invested in the set. It's just a really, really good card. Not only that, thank you, Weiss Tea Time, for making sure that this show always looks absolutely beautiful and that we can present it to you guys. In a lot of ways, Weiss Tea Time makes this show happen. The slides, the advertising, all I can owe a lot to Taya and her effort and her contributions. So thank you so much, Weiss Tea Time. Not only that, one final message that I do also want to add, and this is a special one, it's that we recently had a stream that we had we peaked at 140 viewers. That was the peak concurrent viewers. And to celebrate that, Nova TCG is offering a $15 discount. That is quite substantial on Mushoku playset. So Mushoku is an upcoming Japanese set. It is quite an interesting isekai, I have heard. And to celebrate our show doing really well, our sponsors are happy with that, the performance. Nova is giving $15 off of his $300 Mushoku playsets. $300 playsets are quite good for Japanese playsets, and you get an extra $15 off of that, so $285. So definitely check that out. Some very interesting subject matter. Wait, I'm confused. I don't understand what you're saying. Maybe you can explain that to me clear. So that's my thing. Nova wanted us to say that, and I think it's such a good price. $15 off of already good priced playset. Definitely check out his website. Before I get into Patrick and his shoutouts, I want to thank JCabs for the tier 1 sub. Appreciate it, man. That's sponsor, Strictly Broken TCG Vanguard player, Jared Cabanella. Very good Vanguard player. Much respect for you. Gotta teach me some Narukami plays, man. Pokeblock, thank you for the follow. Infernal XZ, thank you for the follow. Housekeeping out of the way. Patrick, go ahead with your shoutouts.
Only shoutouts I have other than Nova and Weiss Tea Time. Thank you again for sponsoring all of this. The only other shoutouts I have are for the Rochester Play Group. Also for the Pittsburgh Weiss Group. Both of them have been very helpful keeping up on Weiss over the last year and a half for me. So I want to thank them for everything they've done. I plan on continue going to events for both of them. So I'll see you guys in the future.
Yeah, we'll see you at those events, man. One day. In person. Hopefully. Awkward, but vaccinations are happening, man. Dude, totally awesome.
Yeah, but
I really miss in-person events.
Yeah, I agree. I really miss meeting people in person. Sorry, what?
What?
I think he meant that he misses losing to me in person.
That's true. I have 100% tournament lose rate to Patrick. 100% tournament lose rate to Patrick. Tom, you have any last words you want to say?
Well, to reiterate, I would like to thank once again, Weiss Tea Time, Nova TCG, and last but certainly least, Strictly Broken TCG.